Hey y'all, hey, it's JJ Conway. Welcome to Building Wealth Together, where our goal is to help you walk in abundance and leave a legacy. It's Juice with JJ. This is where I keep you informed about scams, financial controversies, and money shenanigans so you can keep your cash flow out of their pockets and funding your dreams. Let's get into it.
Hey everybody, it's JJ Conway, and today I'm got a kind of heavy topic. I wanted to start off talking on my walk about how I'm back on the trail again, got a new to us car, all the good stuff, but we've had some tragedies last week, or this past week, and then also, many of you already know if you weren't watching about the hit last night. So, you might have, if you haven't already heard, Damar Hamlin from the Bills took a hit last night and was carried off the football field in an ambulance. And before they carried him off the football field, the paramedics were trying to administer, or maybe the trainers, I'm not sure who, were trying to administer CPR. And many of you who've been following me, you remember my story a couple months ago, at a conference where I watched somebody receiving CPR and they eventually passed away. And in this case, the young man is in the hospital. From what I understand, the reports are conflicting. He's in a critical condition. Hold on, let me make sure I don't get hit here. Okay, he's in a critical condition, and he's got a breathing tube, but he's still alive, and I'm very thankful for that. I mean, we were praying last night. My husband and I were talking about how if we'd have been at the game, which we wouldn't have, they weren't our teams, but if we had been at the game, we would have also been one of those fans that went to the hospital. But the reason I'm making a video is not because I want to talk about what we would have done, but I want to talk about the implications. And I'm going to make another video later today. How much later depends on how well I get caught up on all the things that need to happen for the other matter that we're dealing with. But I'm going to make a video later in the day about showing some footage and also some commentary on the event. And it really stuck out to me for a multitude of reasons, but one of the reasons was the PTSD implication. And the PTSD implication, many of you know, I served in the military, retired from the Air Force after 23 years. And, you know, when you're in a profession that's dangerous, it's one thing to be in the pre-9/11 Air Force when hardly anybody ever got hurt, right? And then, I mean, let me take that back because you did have Desert Storm, right? But the Air Force that I joined, Desert Storm was over. Desert Storm was won with the least amount of loss of American life ever. Precision strikes and all that good stuff, prepping the battlefield, go Air Force. But when I came into the Air Force, there were people who were who served 20 years and didn't go anywhere. Who served 10 years and didn't go anywhere. And by the time I left the Air Force, even I, as a physicist, who was originally not supposed to go anywhere, went overseas, went to the desert. And, you know, it's one thing when you're doing your job, but it's a whole nother thing when you see you're at Baltimore Airport and you see the plane landing from overseas and your buddies are coming off in wheelchairs or they're coming off in boxes, okay? And, watching that last night, I really should have torn myself away, but I couldn't tear myself away. And because I was praying and doing the things that people of faith do when some tragedy happens, I really thought I was cool until about 3 this morning when I realized I was playing one of those mind-numbing video games. And so my last point in the caption for this video is actually going to be my first point, is to really learn to recognize the signs in yourself of anxiety, depression, PTSD, and those are the kinds of things that you struggle with. Learn to recognize the impact, because there are a lot of people that were on that field and a lot of people across the league that told in their posts, in their commentary, that they'd never seen anything like that happen before. that as a football player, you go and you do expect to get injuries, but CPR is life or death. And they told us fairly early into it that they were doing CPR. So I was really, really shocked when they said, okay, we're going to take a 5-minute pause and we're going to get back to the game. And I don't know how to feel about the poor quarterback who was trying to get everybody riled back up because he thought they were going back into a game. And you and I both know that his buddy would not want them to lose a game. But on the other hand, the man almost died right before their eyes. It's a game changer. And so I do hope that they're getting the mental help that they need. I hope that the NFL or somebody is making available to them quality psychological care. Not what passed for psychological care for a lot of people in the military and still hardly ever passes for people as psychological care in the VA system or in the civilian sector. I found that to be worse because they didn't understand military life. And football's not military. But when you watch somebody die on the field of play, they didn't die. Okay, if anybody's jumping in, he did not die. But they watched them do CPR, which means his heart stopped. And so as the reports came out, originally they were like, well, we don't understand what happened. It looked like a clean hit. It looked like a clean everything. And then later on they found out that it was cardiac arrest. Even though it was a clean hit, the hit was enough to jar his heart and throw it off. And his heart couldn't recover. And so that leads to, I guess I'm doing my points in backwards. That leads to another one of the points, which is you can't judge the effect of an injury by the size of the hit. And I learned that the hard way because so I've had 4 car accidents in 6 years, and the third one is the one that ended my military career pretty much. And I've made a lot of recovery since then. But one of the things that in the meantime of trying to figure out how to get the best care was discovering that everywhere I would go, people would say, your symptoms don't match what happened to you. And the doctors would always say something like, oh wow, I did not expect a truck to be on this road. They would all say something like, well, the symptoms you're having don't match. Are you sure you didn't pass out? And so after hearing that, because I was in the doctor's offices for like 2 years, y'all. I was in the doctor's office more than I was in my own office, right? And so after hearing that over and over and over and over, I finally started saying, well, I don't think I passed out, but everybody keeps telling me that the symptoms I'm experiencing don't match the lack of severity of the accident. Even though the car was totaled their car was totaled, my car wasn't. Even though the car was out for 8 weeks, and even though I had all these crazy symptoms, like trying to say cup and I would say phone, things like that. The military doctors really thought I was faking it. And what I learned from that is, not only are a lot of wounds invisible, but you can't just look at something on the outside with the human eyes and say, well, that was a clean hit. He should be fine. Let's play. Okay? And so as it's played out, we see that they did make the right decision. They suspended the game. I don't know what they're going to do about it as far as trying to find a way to schedule another game, a remake, or whether they're going to call it a tie, or whether they're going to accept a score where it is. I don't know any of that. I'm not concerned about that. But what I am concerned with is the lessons that we can learn from that. And I was appalled. Absolutely appalled. I get it. They suspended the game. They canceled the game. I get that, right? But even after they were given CPR, they were still like 5 minutes warm up. We're going to get back on the field. And to me, it's disgusting, but it's reality in any organization, not just the NFL, which a lot of people, especially minorities, have concerns that the NFL basically treats our kids like meat and hired help and objects, not people, right? So I'll save that commentary for when I do my longer video. But even if that's not the case, the fact is CPR is life or death. How on earth do you expect people to get out there and deliver the big hits just so you can make some money? Like, I don't even understand. I don't even understand why it was a consideration. Once CPR comes into play, that's it, But it's a reminder, even in some of the big corporations, not all of them, because there are some corporations that abide by strong values. There are some corporations that, hey, there are some corporations that are multi-billion-dollar organizations that are debt-free, right? There's some that treat their people right, that have kindness and honesty and integrity as values, right? So I'm not saying this is a blanket thing, but I've also talked with business owners who walked away from their 6- and 7-figure jobs because their leaders at the top of their company looked at the people at the bottom as automatons who were only there to make money for the people at the top. And that's how I felt when they said, oh, we're going to put this on. So what does that tell me? Why am I making this video? Why am I going to make the longer video later, although this one's getting kind of long? It tells me that we cannot forget where we stand. We cannot forget where we stand. We cannot think, oh, I'm big time now. No, because the minute something happens, and I hope this doesn't happen to this young man. I hope as he recovers, everyone continues to rally around him. But if he has a long recovery, they're going to find another player. And maybe I don't know what his status is. I don't know how the contracts work. I know that some players who've gotten hurt, they don't get all their money. I know some players who've gotten hurt, the team rallies around them and supports them. I still shall leave, y'all. All right? But let's look at the reality of it. I remember when I was escorting Rocket Ishmael at SportsCon, and we had this new Steelers player, and I was all excited that this new Steelers player was going to get a few minutes of personal mentoring with Rocket. That wasn't on the agenda, it wasn't on the schedule, and I got a little bit of trouble because he didn't get to all of his stops that he was supposed to make, but he wanted to mentor the Steelers player. Since I'm a Steelers fan, I wasn't going to tell the mega football star no. And so he's mentoring into this player. He's pouring into him. He's telling him, make sure you take care of business. Don't spend your money on chains. Don't spend your money on girls. Don't spend your money on cars. You know, buy a nice house, but don't buy too nice a house. Put all that money in investments because you never know what's going to happen to your body. You never know what kind of injury. Now, I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying anything at all about Damar. Okay, that's not who I'm talking about here. But I remember when Rocket Ishmael was mentoring this young Steelers player, and wouldn't you know, that's first season, he got injured and was removed from the team. And he can't play football anymore. And I hope he did what Rocket told him to do. I hope he set aside the money that Rocket told him to set aside. I hope he remembered the things that Rocket was saying about how you have to take care of yourself because the league isn't going to take care of you. Oh, they'll take care of you. And he didn't say this part. This is my observation, okay? He didn't say anything negative. This is my interpretation after talking with several former Steelers players and several who have experienced concussions and things like that. The league will take care of you to some extent, but the show must go on. And it's up to us to keep ourselves healthy. And it's up to us to keep ourselves resilient. And so, you know, on one hand, I really felt horrible last night, not only because of what happened to him, but because when I first saw the fall, me thinking I'm going to be a good mom, right? Because my son is really into football, and he's thinking he might get to play, he might get an offer for college, and I'm going to support him in his dreams. He's very athletically gifted, right? But the thing is for me is, hey, let's get you with this trainer, Coach Billy, so we can get you in this zone of understanding your body, moving your body, preventing injury, all that stuff. And so I call him in when we first saw the play. I was like, come watch this. I honestly thought they were going to do a few things, and they were going to walk him off. Everybody was going to cheer, and he was going to go into the medical tent, and it was going to be good. And I felt so bad because an hour later, my son's like, wow, I really don't want to have to go to bed off of that. So not my best parenting moment. He and I had a bit of a talk about my intention for having him watch that. Had I known how it was going to play out, I wouldn't have done that. I would not have done that. He can learn those lessons later, right? But he didn't need to see that right before going to bed, especially when he's now up on varsity, been moved up to varsity at the end of last season. So the other thing is, let's see, did I cover all the points? We covered the fact that no matter how big shot you are, no matter how good you are, you have to take care of yourself because you cannot depend on the machine to take care of you. We talked about putting your money away because you never know what's going to happen, especially in a violent sport or in a violent career like the military. Like all the PT we do, all the shots we do. Like I'll never forget when I had that anthrax shot and I couldn't hardly see for 3 weeks. Like my eyes were so blurry, I couldn't even read the big E with glasses on. I couldn't read my Bible. I couldn't read anything. Thank the Lord for people who can, people help drive me, because I was scared to drive, y'all. I couldn't see. It was all blurry, even with glasses on. So I remember that. You never know. Some people took that anthrax shot and their eyes got blurry and their eyes never went back. My eyes went blurry, but they came back mostly. They didn't ever go all the way back, but they came back mostly. And so we got to put aside our money and make our money when we're young, and don't spend it all. Like Rocket said, don't spend it on girls, don't spend it on chains, don't spend it on cars. Invest it, right? And we need to make sure we do that in our young days, in our youth, because we don't know what's going to happen. And even if your life goes well, even if your life is amazing, even if, things just go and you just go along and you never get hurt and you meet the man or woman of your dreams and you have a couple of smart kids and things are great, what opportunities might open up to you? What opportunities might open up if you take the steps now to ensure that you're well taken care of financially? If you invest now, what might open up for you 20 years from now? Okay, so let's see. That was point 2. 1 is don't trust. Point 2. I forgot all my points, y'all. Oh, that's so silly. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm a little silly today. No, I'm not silly. I'm really sad. That's what it is. Don't judge the injury by the size of the hit. You know your body. If something's not right, make sure you acknowledge that it's not right, okay? And make sure you do something about it. I could have listened to all those Air Force doctors and all those people that want to put me in a box. Because let me tell you what happened after I said all that about the accident. They said, "Well, did you pass out?" I said, "Well, no, I don't think I passed out." And then after a year and a half of hearing, "Well, you must have passed out." I mean, you must have passed out because your symptoms don't match. And then finally, when I start meeting new doctors, it's like, well, I don't think I passed out, but people keep telling me I must have passed out because my symptoms don't match. And after I started doing that, I thought I was hedging my bets and saying things that were reasonable, right? Well, instead of being reasonable, the military doctor said, "Oh, well, you're listening to what other people say about your injury, so we're going to put you down as hypochondriac because clearly you're just trying to prove that something's wrong with you." And I was like, what? Anyway, it's not about me. I know I wasn't trying to make something wrong with me. I was trying to get healed because I had already missed my first shot at 06 due to that accident. I was trying to make it. And I had one more shot. And I was not throwing away my shot. But I tell you what, if I had listened to those people, I wouldn't be running my international company teaching women how to manage money. I wouldn't have a podcast. I wouldn't be on TV. I wouldn't be on any of those things because they made me feel like I was never going to get better. And having that determination and knowing my body and knowing that something wasn't right and being able to go to the Amen Clinic and get the brain scan, the same brain scan he does with NFL people, which is not the case. It's not the case. It's not the case for Damar Hamlin, okay? He had cardiac arrest. But a lot of NFL players have concussions. And when you see a player like some of my favorite players, they get all erratic all of a sudden and start acting crazy and doing weird things. A lot of times that's concussion after concussion after concussion after concussion, okay? And so I went to the Amen Clinic, and they did the scan, and they said, "Yep, we can see this, and we can see this, and we can see this over here, and we can see this over here, and here's what you do about it." And so I really wasn't going to say all that on this, but I tell you, we gotta understand that these things happen, and we've got to protect ourselves as best we can. And for him, he's in his prime physical condition. I imagine it'd be a lot easier for him to recover from something like that than for someone like me, who I'm huffing and puffing after a mile and a half. Now, granted, I did run some intervals before I started this. Not because I really wanted to run intervals in the middle of a 3-day fast, but because I was in front. I was going alongside some people who had a baby, and I wanted to make my podcast, and I didn't want to get them in the podcast. I mean, I want to make this video. I didn't want to get them in it. So, but I could tell that this affected me. I could tell the fact that this person's injured and could be injured for the rest of his life affected me, because it took me back to my injuries. And so what did I do? I put on release oil in the diffuser, and I prayed, and I did what I do when I can't work is I make something out of it. And you'll see the results of that later on. It's my way of honoring Damar Hamlin, as well as dealing and coping with his injury, what I observed, and the implications that has for so many people like him and like me. All right, that's a lot more. I walked a lot further because I had so much emotion about this thing. I walked a lot further than I was intending to today, because it is a fasting day. And so I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I appreciate those of you who stayed on. Y'all mean the world to me. I love y'all. Y'all take care. Be blessed.
Love the podcast? Be sure to like, subscribe, and forward to 3 friends. You can ask a question or take a life-changing class at buildingwealthtogether.com. Now, go walk in abundance and leave a legacy.